Welcome back. It is yours truly, Nick, a Movie AV Impulse. And before we get into this video, I want you guys to do me a favor. Hit that like, share, and subscribe because there are going to be a lot of videos coming out. I'm not stopping. I'm still here. We are trying to get to 8,000. So any help is appreciated. And I also want to make a disclaimer here. This challenge was a little bit harder than I thought. But I want to clarify that these are really in no particular order. They are just 25 of my favorite movies, not to be mistaken for the greatest movies of all time. That list for me would be a little different. Some of them that are in this would be probably in there, but we're going to get right into it. No intro. I'm going to try to make this as short as I can. So let's start with number 25 and run it down. And the last five will actually be the ones that mean the most to me. The rest of them are just movies I thoroughly enjoy and I absolutely love. Anyways, at number 25 is going to be Dick Tracy. I mean, I think that's kind of self explanatory. Great comic book adaptation movie. I really want this in a 4K with a full restoration. I absolutely love this movie. So fun. Coming up at number 24 is going to be Goodfellas. I mean, what more can I say? It's Goodfellas, one of the greatest narrated movies, one of the greatest mafia movies to me. It is right up there with a lot of them. The reason why probably The Godfather won't be anywhere in my 25 favorites is because I actually didn't get introduced to The Godfather until very later in life. I was mainly a, you know, Goodfellas, Casino, things of that nature type of, mafia movie. All right. And for my man's Will Smith, I'm gonna have to go with Men in Black. I freaking love the original Men in Black. Sitting up at number 23. I just love this one. Coming in at number 22, which I don't know why this doesn't even have a Blu ray yet, but Dangerous Minds to me was a super powerful movie. Loved it. Michelle Pfeiffer did her thing. I mean, what more can I say? Unfortunately, this is the only physical format besides VHS that this movie is available in, and it's a damn shame because this deserves a 4K in my opinion, with like a documentary. A lot of these actors and actresses are still alive, so it would just be really great for them to look back and do a full documentary on this one. Coming in at number 21, the movie that introduced me to my favorite director, and that's going to be Pulp Fiction. I love Quentin Tarantino so much. I named my firstborn after him. Absolutely love him. Every movie, but Pulp Fiction will always be my number one favorite, and I can't take that back. I think I lost count. Maybe that was 19. Like I said, I'm not editing this. Let's just go down the line. Uh, I'm gonna go with Freddy. That's gonna be part three. Dream Warriors. That one is my favorite. We finally got the announcement for the first one on a 4K with a steel book. Mine's already pre-ordered. I'll be doing a full review once that movie comes out. The second it gets into my hands, I'm watching it to bring you a full review, my style. You guys, if you don't know how I do things, I'll pin a couple at the end. I just love the unique way that I do my reviews, and hopefully you do too. Next up, Robocop. I mean, as a kid, you can't tell me when, I first seen this movie. This was actually one of the rare movies my dad let me watch, even though there was so much violence and blood in it. I just think it's hilarious because, he thought it was just kind of like I guess like a superhero type of movie because they made toys for them and they wanted to market to kids. So my dad probably thought, hey, this movie's really for kids. we'll go check it out. And when it came out, we rented it at Blockbuster, and man, I fell in love with it. I watched it ever since and had to get the Blu-ray. This is a great restoration film, especially if you need a reference film. That 4K is absolutely gorgeous. Coming up next is Moonwalker. As a kid, Michael Jackson was just captivating, mesmerizing, everything that he did, all the projects, his love for giving back and just putting on the greatest shows. I still don't know any performer from what I heard. I never seen Michael Jackson live, but I mean, if you watch videos, documentaries, people would faint. Like, that is just insane to think that just the very presence and aura of a person would make you faint. That's just absolutely crazy to me. So Moonwalker, this is an import. They do not have this on Blu-ray in the US or released in the US, so I had to get it from overseas, but it is a region-free Blu-ray, and the restoration on it is magnificent. I love it, and I love watching this. It's like watching a big music video. Absolutely love it. Next up, my favorite Denzel Washington film, Man on Fire. The first time I seen this movie, I was hooked, done, stamped, sealed, and approved. This movie just does it for me. Everything. This was the equalizer before the equalizer, and, you know, just from being what he was in the movie, this, drunk alcoholic that just really didn't care about much about life anymore. We even thought about taking his own life, and then he just ends up basically falling in love with the kid that he's protecting, and he does what he has to do to get her back. Just such a great remake of a movie, way better than the original. Next up, Menace to Society. I love this film way more than Juice, way more than Boys in the Hood. This one related more to me in the life in my teenage years that I was living versus something like Juice or Boys in the Hood. Like, first growing up, there was gangs, but there wasn't as much like gang activity in my area per se. We had your typical, you know, big gangs, but they weren't really like crazy. I mean, even I joined a gang at one point, and it was a pretty big gang, and so Menace to Society was just one of those. I was hustling, I was doing my thing, and this is one of those movies that just I felt more passion with it. And as far as Old Dog goes, Old Dog is literally the definition of my cousin growing up. My cousin Greg was just insane. He would just slap you for no, like, you even said something to me or something else. It's crazy long stories, but yeah, Menace to Society, to me, that's just one of my favorites. Up next, The Warriors. I mean, come on. The clinking with the Coca Cola bottles. I mean, this movie is just fantastic. I only own the Blu ray. That's all I really need. I kind of like how, the Blu ray looks on this. It has that little bit of scruffiness. And that's just the way I remember the movie and the way that I prefer to watch it. Some movies I prefer on 4K, and then some movies just have so much nostalgia and capture so much of my actual childhood or teenage years or even early adult years that I don't want the 4K because I don't want it to ruin the experience. I know that sounds weird coming from somebody that loves 4Ks, but to me, it was just one of those ones where I couldn't upgrade. I just stuck with the Blu-ray. Each my ear. Next up, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Got this 4K not too long ago, but I did have this on DVD. That was the only version I had. Now I have it on 4K. Love the restoration on this one too. And even the surround sound is really, really good. But I mean, who didn't want to be stuck in a chocolate factory as a kid? I mean, that's just the craziest right there. Uh, Movie from Stallone, Rocky 3. Rocky 3 is my favorite. This one will forever go down as my favorite. Mr. T at the time was just at the pinnacle of me loving, the A-Team. He was in this movie. He was with Hulk Hogan in WrestleMania. Like, he was just everywhere. He had his own cereal, and I freaking loved that cereal. And all it was T-shaped, sugar-flavored corn puffs. But I absolutely love this one. This one is my favorite, especially with how disrespectful Clever Lane was. He just didn't care. I loved it. Coming up next, Halloween 4. This one is and will forever be my favorite. While a lot of people probably already stopped the video at this point because they saw Halloween 4, it's just my personal opinion. This was the very first one. And just imagine being 5 years old. I was coming out to do something, and my mom was like, "Hey, come watch this movie with me." I had no clue what the movie was. I sat down and I just see this guy shove a thumb into the paramedic's freaking forehead. And I was just like, oh my God. I ran, bumped my head. My head was gushing blood from running under my mother's bed and hitting the metal bed frame. True story. I've said it before, but I was gushing blood. And that's how much this movie and Michael Myers scared me. So it will forever be my favorite. I won't change that. Next up, the Addams Family. I love the Addams Family. I can't get enough of both of them. I thought both of them were really great. The first one really taking the cake. I never thought that. I didn't even know that that was Christopher Lloyd playing Uncle Fester because I was so used to seeing him in Back to the Future that I didn't even know. It didn't even like dawn on me that that was him. And just great performances from everybody. And I had the wickedest crush on Morticia. My God, even at this age, watching this movie, forget it. I'm just not even gonna get into it. Next up, Bloodsport. Love this. I love this. Book. I did a full review on this, but Bloodsport for me, like what Enter the Dragon is to a lot of people. No disrespect at all. Enter the Dragon is a phenomenal movie, but for me, Bloodsport changed the way that I seen karate movies and kung fu flicks and all that. I didn't watch any of that. Bloodsport was the very first like martial arts movie I watched, and this is what captured my love in nostalgia for kung fu flicks. So this one's always going to be in my top favorites. Next up, A Bronx Tale. I couldn't find where I put my 4K, but I do have the Blu-ray of this still. Nobody wanted it, so I kept it. And this does have a great restoration, especially on the 4K. But man, the Bronx Tale, it's just there was so many life lessons in there. That was the very first life lessons that I ever did. If you're not familiar with those life lesson segments, I will leave a playlist down below. I take a movie and take real life experiences and mesh them into one, and it's still one of my favorite series that I do over on this channel. If you like what you're seeing so far, hit that like and subscribe for me. Greatly appreciated. On the road to 1,000. Next up, my favorite gangster movie of all time, and that is going to be Al Pacino in Carlito's Way. This is the movie that introduced me to gangster films. This was the first one that I seen, and even if it wasn't the first one I seen, like if I would have seen Scarface or something else of that nature, I still wouldn't change my mind. I think this movie literally has everything you want and need in a gangster film. Just my own personal opinion, not yours. It's just mine. It has everything: love, drama, romance, and this was the first time that I remember seeing John Leguizamo, Penny from the Bronx. So, love that movie. Next up, one of my favorite comedies of all time, The Big Lebowski. I absolutely love this set. I never did a review on it because it was just a re-release of the same 4K transfer. Sometimes as much as I would love to give reviews on things, I just I don't, only because so many people did it. It's such an oversaturated market. So for me, I just didn't even really get into it. But yeah, the Big Lebowski is forever one of my favorite comedy classics. Two honorable mentions before I get into my last five that actually have like something that just has a lot of connection with family or connection with my actual life or anything like that. So first up is going to be Beetlejuice. Michael Keaton. I loved him in Beetlejuice. I watched this movie and I just fell in love with it, especially Nice Fucking Model, Hong Kong. That was like, you know, forbidden in my house to swear, and yet here I am watching this movie with my mom and my dad, and again, they thought it was kid friendly, and definitely, maybe it was, but not that one part when he swore. 'Cause my dad like instantly was like, just kind of looked at me like, don't be repeating what you hear. Next up is a movie that none of y'all still even seen. I can't tell you how many times me and my buddy Jerry have recommended this movie, but Gotti is probably in the category of top five mafia flicks. I mean, this mafia movie is just the real life adaptation, aside from a documentary from documented people, how Gotti lived his life and how he went from a nobody that got out of jail and was just a runner for the mafia to being the head Don. I love this movie. It's just one of my favorites. All right. So now the five crown jewels that just mean the world to me. This is my favorite movie of all time, my favorite Disney movie of all time when it comes to like the cartoon movie category. Oliver and Company was the very first movie that I remember watching in the theaters. This came out in 1988. My mother took me to the theaters. I had no clue. It was the first time ever going to the theaters, and my eyes lit up because back in the days, theaters were really targeted for kids. I mean, they had crazy arcades and popcorn and candy and sodas and other kids just running around playing. Like some of them, there was one in my area when I got a little bit older. I was too old to go in it at that point, but they had like a mini like play set, like like a Chuck E. Cheese almost. It was crazy. But Oliver and Company was just one of those, movies that even at a young age, the song "Why Should I Worry," I remember like hearing that song, and then like my mom got me like this like Disney sing along thing, and it had that song in there, and I used to sing it and like really listen to the words, and I was just like, man, that's crazy. So it's kind of like, why should I worry about what anybody thinks? It's just my opinions, and everybody has a right to theirs. Next up, this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, still the best Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, live action and or animated to date. That's just my personal opinion. And Cal, you saying that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 was your favorite one, I know that's just a bunch of bullshit. So you can pipe that down. But yeah, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the original, this one just rocked. This is the very first movie I seen with my stepfather when this came out. Again, it was just like a rare treat to go to the theater because we weren't, living in the life of luxury. So, yeah, it was just one of those like I share a special connection with my stepdad who raised me with that movie. So it's crazy. Next up, I pulled out the old school DVD for y'all on Batman. This one is another one that I remember my father getting this movie, putting it in the VCR, and it was when he got this brand new Fisher stereo system. It was a 5.1. It was absolutely insane. I mean, the center channel was like this big. The tower speakers at my age were like as tall as I was. There was two 12-inch woofers in them. I mean, it was just a crazy, crazy setup. Because if y'all know me, y'all know my father was always crazy into audio and TVs. That's why I'm so obsessed with it. And, when I first watched Batman, even on VHS in a simulated 5.1, because I'm sure if I was to go back in the past and listen to it as an adult, it was probably like one of the worst sounding things. But there was so much going on that it just blew my mind. I couldn't believe I was hearing it like I was in a movie theater. Craziness. And then Bad Boys 1 and 2. I'm going to cheat a little bit on this one. Bad Boys 1 is me and my cousin Eddie, our special connection. I watched this movie for the first time over at his house because his mom, she was always gone to work, and that was like the only place that we could be us without having to worry about my uncle whooping our ass or my father catching us whooping our ass. Because growing up, me and my cousin Eddie and my cousin Calvin, man, we stayed in trouble and we just didn't care. It was just one of those. But that Bad Boys just has a special place in my heart. And when I die, you know, I do want this movie to be buried with me. I know that sounds crazy, but it's just so that I can keep that in the afterlife, like that memory. Because sometimes when I watch this movie, it instantly just gives me flashbacks of like when we were watching it. Just absolutely insane. And my number one favorite movie of all time, and I would classify this as the perfect movie in no movie that I have seen yet to date out of the hundreds of thousands of movies that I have watched. This one still remains my all time favorite, and that is The Shawshank Redemption. The very first time I seen this movie, I was just captivated, mesmerized, shocked. It was just insane. In the narration from the greatest voice in Hollywood, Morgan Freeman. Just, I absolutely love this movie. I still own my DVD copy, my Blu-ray copy, and this 4K. Fortunately, the Blu-ray copy and the DVD copy are packed away, but man, I just can't say anything more. This, Shawshank Redemption is just one of those fantastic movies that if you take 10 seconds out of that movie, it would just change the entire aspect. There is not a part in that movie that I can think of that you could cut out. That is just the perfect movie for me. And if I ever did make a top 25 of the best movies ever made, not, excluding my favorites, that's still going to be up there somewhere. But to me, I still think that that's the best movie ever made. Anyways, much love. Thanks for checking these out. Let me know what your top 25 are, top 5 or top 10, whatever you want to leave down in those comments. Again, the fuzz really inspired me to do this video. I know there's tons of videos of my favorite this and top 20 that and 25 of this. But the fuzz, I realized that like as far as like the type of movies that we watch and really favor, then that we had a lot in common. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to do a video. So I did it. Anyways, much love. Catch me on Wednesday and many more videos to come. Much love. Peace.